All right. Good evening and welcome to a brand new episode of Monday Night Therapy. I'm your host, Minnie Hunt, and with me is our notorious, such love we have for Fred Sacco from the one and only chat. And you can't see him right now because we were having a few technical difficulties before the show started. And I have to be honest with you, he thought he crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, and still we had some issues. So I just wanted to say welcome and welcome to Fred. I think he can hear us and talk with us. Fred, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can hear you. So,
Good.
You seem to know quite a bit about like technical things as far as internet, and I mean you seem to be right on it. How does something like this happen?
Apparently not enough. Yeah, apparently not enough. Well, like we said, it's because I'm not connected to the Ethernet. I don't know where the port even is on my new Google Fiber box. I just got it set up. So it's like I'm going off of Wi-Fi, and that's the problem. So
Yep. And I mean, from personal experience, I know this can take months to figure out. And finally, I just bit the bullet and was able to plug right into, the Ethernet on my internet. And luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any issues since. But I wanted to say welcome to the chat, your family, your home. James Boardman is here, and he was here first. He said primero. I think that means he's number one. I don't know what language that might be, but and then Jay Jasinski, Fred. Welcome, Jay. And Chuck Day says it is definitely Fred's fault. The technical difficulties. I mean, it's not, but it is. So that's okay. And Vince Watson. Yeah. Vince Watson wants to know, did Fred get banned before it even started? Not yet, Vince. Not yet. But, the night is young, so we'll see. And let's see here. What is this? Chuck Day says you're banned from a Target in Gretna. What's that all about? Is there a story?
Chuck Day is under heavy sedation. So that's all you need to know about him. He's got problems, that guy.
He's got issues. What did you do at Target in Gretna?
I don't know. It might have been one of those fugue states I go into every now and again. You just never can tell.
All right. Well, Fred, let's go ahead and just start it off by just giving the last I checked, Nebraska basketball, men's basketball was down by 4. It was half. I think they're playing again, but we'll definitely keep tabs on that tonight. Hopefully they pull out another win. And I just wanted to have Fred on the show because he has been around since I've been around, and he's one of the most entertaining, and I want to say probably one of the reasons that I'm here, because I would show up to watch John and Greg on their shows, and Fred was always in the chat, and he was a lot of fun. So I realized that I don't really know a whole lot about you other than you live in in Nebraska, and you grew up a Huskers fan, right?
That's correct. Yep, I'm in Omaha, so not too far away.
Yeah. And so were you born a Huskers fan? Is that how it works there?
Pretty much. I mean, if you're a male and once you get to age 5, you accept Nebraska as your personal football team and savior. So I was pretty much born into it. But I mean, we all have our origin story, but I'm a basic, and a lot of us are here because we born into it, and you just grow up watching it, and you just dig it.
Okay. Are you still digging it? That's the question. That's the $1 million question.
It's difficult a lot of times. I mean, like I grew up, I mean, she said we'd talk about like why I watch it.
Mhm.
The earliest memories I had, we'd beat everybody. We'd probably lose to Oklahoma, and we'd lose a bowl game, and that was it. And it was a symmetry that I appreciated about that. You always knew what you're going to get. You didn't know that the coach had problems, or the running back beat his girlfriend, or that the quarterback had a stalker that tried to get on the chain gang. We didn't know all those things back then, so it was a quaint, nice thing. I remember first vivid memory was the 83 team in the 84 Orange Bowl when we lost. Grown men were crying and hanging over my parents' deck, throwing up. I thought that's what a hangover was. Nebraska lost, and you hung over the rail. So I went through that, and then like the tough 90s, early 90s when we were not winning the big one. Then they got it together, and I stuck with it. A lot of people didn't. I know some friends that became Oklahoma fans or Miami fans or Notre Dame just to be difficult. I don't really talk to them anymore.
They're not in your will.
No, but and I've gone to a number of games. I sent you the screenshot of the tickets from so many games. And again, I don't have the Husker history a lot of the guys and gals in chat do. I've read some of the things they write, and they've been around longer than me, but I was blessed to be able to see the 90s run,
Yeah.
and that was just excellence for me, for all of us.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like. That kind of cosmic explosion of greatness, and knowing that you're gonna just pummel other opponents. I can't even imagine. I can't. My little Husker brain can't wrap around how that even was. I hear stories about it, but I mean, I want to know more. Like, what was the anticipation like each week? What was the experience like at the games?
Each week we expected to pretty much crush everybody. And that's what's so crazy about from then until it went bad with, through Callahan and some of Bo and Riley, and then, Frost. It's like we went from feeling like we could never lose to sometimes feeling like we're never going to win. And it's just like, it's been like a 20+ year whiplash, I think, for a lot of us. But back in the day, yeah, well, I mean, a good one is the 97 Missouri game. That's like far and away everybody talks about that. It's one of the biggest games. My friends and I were going to that game talking about how many touchdowns our fullback was going to have. And we thought if he doesn't have at least 5 or 6, we've just failed today. Like we were literally betting on that type of activity, and then we go and end up being part of one of the wildest, most historic games, at least in my lifetime, that I've been to. So yeah, it's the expectations were through the roof, and we had a certain level of play, and nothing lasts forever, and we're definitely seen that steady decline. But I think Rule's getting it back together, and I am encouraged, as scary as that is to say.
So this says section S. Where is that seat? Oh, this is in. Yeah, this is in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, we were like right on a line to the end zone where the catch actually happened. So we were right. Okay. Well, we weren't right there when it happened because we were going to leave. We started to leave because we thought we were going to lose. We'd like, this is over. But then we ended up staying above the end zone where the catch actually happened. So
that is awesome.
well, look at Matt Sainer.
I know. He says the Missouri game was my very first live Husker game. Been a fan ever since. And this was in 1997. What year?
Yes. Yep.
97.
97.
Okay. Wow. What a great game to be a part of. Oh,
Yeah. Is like, I mean, it was wild and the game got tight. And then as it turned to like the evening, we were hearing that the game was going national because it was just a regional broadcast. And we were like,
yeah.
wow, this is big time. It was really something.
Okay. Now I'm showing all of your Husker tickets collected that you've had throughout the years. Walk me through some of these. It looks like, I mean, geez, how far back do they go?
96 was the first game I went to, also a Missouri game. That was in Lincoln. It was like an ice storm. So there was that. And then the next year, go to the 97 game. I pushed it down there because it, stands out. But I mean, you'll see a lot of games like from Callahan's era, kind of because they were so cheap to get because we sucked then. And some of the 2000s games, people weren't as sold maybe. But yeah, I mean, you see there, I went to Solich's first game, went to the Texas game where we lost the home winning streak. 99 California game where Crouch scored like a bunch of different touchdowns, a bunch of different ways. So my friends and I were literally calling the plays because Frank was pretty predictable.
Really?
Some of them, honestly, I don't even remember. It's just like it's been so long. But Big 12 championship, obviously remember that. That was a big win.
Yeah. So how did you feel about us going to the Big Ten then?
I was happy about it because the Big 12 was dying. Texas was running everything. It was very frustrating. It was one of those things where Tom Osborne always said it was a bad idea to let them in and let them have the power they did. So going to the Big Ten was difficult. We weren't built for it, but it was necessary just to, invigorate the program and give us a chance to be in a legit conference. Because look at the Big 12 now. Who's even there? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But so yeah, this was huge for our longevity and future goals.
Yeah, the Big 12, with the new college football playoff model, we kind of touched on this a little bit on Thursday night for the 5 Heart podcast. They're supposed to have 2 automatic bids into the college football playoffs. And, I was just hypothesizing that perhaps somebody from the Big 12 or the ACC could be national championships, champion winners. But truthfully, I mean, that probably isn't going to happen. And it was good that I suppose we left the Big 12.
It was. I mean, in theory, you potentially have an easier path, maybe, and you're not going to get shut out, but it's the TV revenue money we get. And I mean, the revenue is the big thing for everything. It's the reason we dropped that Tennessee game or backed out or whatever, umpteen different stories. It's like, it's all about the revenue, and we just have and we have an actual network, unless there's a Big 12 network now. But again, it's something that it's like, who cares? Like, they're irrelevant to a lot of us.
Yeah. Chuck Day puts a comment out. He says 40-team Super League coming. I mean, that's possible. It's probably what should happen, to be honest. How do you feel about the way that college football has changed? I mean, ever since I've been a fan, which has only been like just about 10 years, this everything changes. It's like year to year it changes. Okay, Sean.
Yeah,
Sean, hold that thought, Sean. We're gonna get to that comment. Okay, sorry.
I mean, we're fine. I mean, it's like many things. Well, like the Tennessee thing, I had the knee-jerk visceral reaction everybody else did. I saw it on the bottom line. I was mad. I texted a bunch of my friends, this sucks. This is why college football is dying. But then I thought about it and I read some stuff. I was talking to some people, and it's it's
Right.
revenue. It's
It's revenue.
get the extra
Thank you.
game,
Put that up here.
But part of my dissatisfaction is just like the slowly dying football fan inside me just hates to lose the historical matchups like that. Like see Tennessee on our field and then see our guy at Neyland Stadium with the checkered end zone and the 100,000 people in orange and white, and you're looking for the slivers of red in the crowd. And it's like, what do we get now? It's like, Bowling State and Ball Green. And I know I got those wrong because that's not important to me that I get them right. It's like, okay, we get a couple of tomato cans that we can whack, and that's it. So for the fan, it's a bummer, but I get it. But that doesn't mean I got to love it.
I know. We definitely don't. I mean, there's a big discrepancy between, those other teams outside of the Big Ten and any team basically in the Big Ten or SEC. So yeah, it kind of, I wish we had a more competitive schedule. That's what I would like to see.
It's tough. I mean, I know some people griped about Tennessee because it's a tough game. We would have 4 playoff teams in one season, so it's kind of like, I don't know. I get it see it from both sides, but I didn't love the fact that we lose that game. Although a ticket to the other 2 games will be easier to get for every fan,
True.
So that's kind of nice. But
yeah. So Joseph Doherty says football fans can't handle their emotions. I mean, there's truth to that. I'd say we get very caught up in just every morsel that we can sink our teeth into. Are other sports
and here
that
it's
way?
like that, especially because it's the only thing we have,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're going to appreciate this. I have to show it. James, he says Scott Frost liked to smack cans at the Spearmint Rhino. So appropriate, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. You're doing God's work. You really are.
No kidding. Okay, so just a little side note. Last we heard Jerry Morrow says Michigan 30, Huskers 29, 15 minutes, 30 seconds left in the game. So yeah, we were trailing the whole game. We'll see how we do. I want to know what it was like. I'm sure you've been to, or if you haven't been to games that Tommie Frazier played in, at least you knew about him, right? Especially going to school in Omaha.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have any football players visit your school? I mean, I think that was like a common thing, right?
No. I grew up I was born in Omaha, moved to a small town called Plattsmouth. That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And that's where I had some friends who were on the football team, and they were pretty good linemen. And Tom Osborne came to see them, but the team wasn't very good. And there's all kinds of stories I could share about this, but just let it be said that they didn't do too well their senior season, and they didn't end up, getting signed by Nebraska. But you couldn't help but not know about Frazier, even without the internet, of course, and without 24/7 coverage. There was all the stuff about him in the paper when we were trying to get him. And then it looked like Notre Dame got him, and then we finally picked him up. And I think it was like a few games into his freshman year was when they finally started him. And he was raw, but God, he was just fast and wasn't the greatest passer. But he was just like, I always said he was like Magic Johnson on the football field. Like he got the ball to the right person at the right time. He wasn't trying to grind out 1,000 yards and stats. Just like he was just a great distributor, and he knew how to run that offense, and it was so smooth.
Yeah, I heard his freshman year was a little shaky. He lost us 5 games or something, but after that, I mean, he was basically undefeated, right?
Yeah, he trying to think. Well, we lost a couple Orange Bowls to Florida State, and the one we should have won. If there was instant replay, we definitely would have won that one. But from that point on, he didn't lose, and it just the talent around him and the offensive line. I mean, I understand we'll never see anything like that again. It was lightning in a bottle. It was the right staff, the right players, the right scheme. I'd still take those teams against most modern teams just because, in my mind, we still were just unbeatable. Nobody could touch us.
So that's because we used to get all of those linemen. This is what I've heard. Tell me if this is true. We used to get all those linemen from Western Nebraska, and they were big old guys, right? And I mean, that's what wins games.
A lot of them, yeah. A lot of them were. They were, the typical corn-fed Nebraska guys. We get some guys from out of Texas too on some of those good lines, but there was a lot of local-ish people, and they'd build them up. I mean, before I even was like knowing what was going on, the line, you wouldn't start unless you were like a junior on the offensive line. We were that deep and that good because the roster was different back then. But yeah, they take those guys, and they took guys that some guys were like basketball players too, but they were phenomenal athletes, and they turned them into linemen, and some were wrestlers, and they turned them into just phenomenal linemen. So yeah, it was the pipeline back then. And God love Donovan Raiola. I don't know. I hope he can replicate that here at some point, but I think the jury is still out.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay, we're going to get to that, Matt, I promise. Okay, so moving on from the 90s, the glory years, the golden era, I like to call it. I mean, every single fan that was, even you don't even have to be alive during that time, but every single fan of Nebraska knows about it, and they talk about it. What was moving into the 2000s like?
It was still, I still believe Frank was the guy. I'm still, probably irritate some people in the chat. I was one of the people that did not want him fired when he got fired in 2003. I figured he still had the pedigree. He still had the experience. We were still getting pretty good players. We got a little lax in some areas, but I still thought we were in really good shape. I didn't think we were going to take the hit that we did until they fired him and until they hired Bill Callahan. I used to record all the games and all the press conferences and highlights on videotapes. And I recorded the press conference when we hired Bill Callahan. I don't remember the date. I think alcohol blocked it from my brain, but I wrote the date, and I wrote Nebraska hires Bill Callahan, and I wrote the end of the world as we know it on that tape. And
oh my goodness.
Well, it turned out to be true because he was like the 7th choice or 8th choice. It's like, come on, and so I had a high optimism until they hired him. I didn't think it was going to work. A lot of us didn't, and it didn't. It was square peg, round hole, trying to rebuild it, trying to tear down everything we had been and change it. And then we'll get to Rule, of course, but it's like he's been one of the few that's been the good middle ground who has at least honored the past, but still doing his own thing. So many of the other people tried to take it and twist it or do something just radically different, and it just did not work.
Yeah, they had their own brand of football, right? Speaking of which, that kind of takes us into other coaches and what that looked like. Tell me about your thoughts on Bo Pelini.
I was happy for us to get Bo Pelini at the time. I equated it to like when you get out of a bad relationship, like anything is going to be better. That next girl is just the best thing ever, no matter what. And it seemed like he was. And then he ran afoul of the actual administration. They weren't working with him near the end. He got hot-headed. They fought. And then you could tell he had just kind of given up, like his last couple of years. Like, he was still fiery, but he played the old us against the world card too much. Like, in the NFL, you can get away with that for a playoff run, maybe, but you can't sustain your whole entire team's program and being on us against the world, because after a while, all those players are going to be like, why are we playing for all these 90,000 people in the stands? Because we're against them anyway. So that's when we'd see the meltdowns. And with Bo, you could predict everything that was going to happen. We would never beat anybody of note. We'd have one ignominious, ridiculous loss where we just got destroyed. And then we'd lose some other random game, and he'd snap at some point. And it's like, I love a coach that's fiery, and I love a coach that's a dick to the media. That's great. That's like the chef's kiss, but you got to actually do something before you just pop off. And he wasn't winning the way that he should have won. And yeah, we won 9 games a year and all that, but it was the way everything was running. And it was unfortunate that he had to go, but he did. And then they switched to Riley, which gave the poor players whiplash, because you go from fire and brimstone to Mr. Rogers, and it would just was not, it was just wasn't going to, that wasn't going to work either. It's not going to work.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned Mike Riley being Mr. Rogers. That's when I started to watch college football and became a fan of Nebraska. And I would listen to the press conferences, and I thought, he is the nicest guy. Oh my goodness. Wouldn't I mean, I just would love to meet him. And I was definitely not on board with him getting fired at all. Because, I mean, to me, it was all about just being nice and doing the best you can, and that's okay. But I also didn't experience all the other stuff that you had gone through. And I understand that Mike Riley might have been a bit soft. And that probably doesn't work for football.
Yeah, I remember watching the Big Ten Network, and Jerry Denver, that used to coach at LSU, he was an analyst, and he said it was like during fall camp, and he said he came to Lincoln, and he said, oh, I loved what Riley was doing. He said it looked like a typical Pac-12 practice. And I thought, well, we're fucked now, because Pac-12 was soft football, and we're not going to get away with soft football in the Big Ten. And it was just like, okay, then. And you could see it. They tried, and they had some games that they did all right. But I thought at least he was going to be the guy that would get us some good players and set the table for the next guy, because he wasn't a spring chicken. And then he didn't really leave us with anything great either. And,
Okay. What are you opening there, Fred? Do I need to have Greg's song on? What are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, I'm not gonna sing what I'm drinking, and I'm probably not even gonna go whoa, 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 but I'm having a delightful Kincaidor goat Bach lager. It's very tasty.
Goat? Is that what you said?
Yes, goat. Yeah, I really don't know the reasoning behind it, and it's dark and scary in here where I have my laptop set up with no camera, because my internet sucks and I can't really see what the story about it is, why it's called the goat. But it's a fine Kincaidor brew from Broken Bow, Nebraska.
Very nice. Yeah. I remember we met each other for the first time at Kincaidor's, which I can pronounce correctly now. And I remember seeing you, and you were wearing There Is No Hope, Fuck Everything, Go Big Red t-shirt, Corn Nation favorite. And this beautiful lady standing next to you. Tell me, is Maureen a fan?
Not really, no. She never cared for football. We'll go to a game every now and again, but for us, it's kind of a nice day. If we go down, the game sucks, or if it's a blowout, we'd leave at halftime, go to a vineyard, and go home. So it's, we make our own fun. But yeah, she doesn't really get into football too much. That's my thing.
Marine. See, I tell my brother-in-law he's not allowed to even have a girlfriend unless she's a Nebraska fan. Actually, I changed it over the years, and it's if as long as she doesn't hate Nebraska, because there's more haters than there are fans, I feel like sometimes.
Some places there are. I mean, even here in Omaha, there's some people that just want to go against the grain and whatever, and they talk trash, and it's like they have no bearing. They have no. My chiropractor calls like the local fans that say they're Iowa fans. He calls them Tavern Hawkeyes. He went to Iowa State and he graduated from there. He's a wrestler, and he said, if you're from Iowa State or fan, it's because you went there. He said Iowa fans are people that just say, okay, I live in the state of Iowa, I might as well follow them. And there's some even stupid people in Omaha that like they're Iowa fans, and I don't get it. But maybe the skull hasn't hardened yet. I don't know. There could be a number of things behind it, but yeah.
Well, Jerry Morrow updates us with the score. Nebraska, Michigan still tied now 37-37 with 7 minutes, 7 seconds left in the game. A real scoring explosion.
Jerry's one of my good friends.
37.
And Chuck Day, Matt Sainer, they're all my friends too. You might be seeing them in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen them. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of these comments. Matt, we were talking about the Western Nebraska guys. Matt Sainer goes, big old farm guys. That's what I like to hear about. And even now when we get somebody from Nebraska, I always check to see, okay, did they grow up on a farm? Those big, muscular linemen. Let's see here. We'll go to those later. Guess who's in the chat as well? Greg's in the chat, and he says, is Fred in the witness protection program? Because we can't see you. No, actually, he had issues with his camera. So not camera, but just the internet not being directly plugged in. It didn't want to cooperate, and it was lagging. So it's a shame because you did all that like pre-work to get everything set up. And once we got on, he goes, oh, you're lagging. I can't really see you. And I said, no, you're lagging. So yeah, I wish we could have figured it out, but the show must go on, right? And then Maddie,
we adapt, we adjust. Goes,
we do.
Maddie also
said
is
free
also
Fred.
A friend of mine, so yes.
Oh my gosh! So are all these people Husker fans?
Yes, they actually are.
Oh my gosh! Welcome everyone. And then Aaron King goes, "Who the hell is this Fred guy, anyways?" He's from our chat, like you guys. And then Vince Watson says, back when this is because I was talking about when I started to become a fan, back when she was a rookie stalker instead of stalking rookies. It's true. It's so true. But, Jay Jasinski was saying there was optional conditioning under Riley. Is that true?
It was under him, and even under Bo. There was something about the different machines they used where they would, like, if you started to fail, the machine would ease the weight on you. So the guys were never going to, like, say 3 sets of 10. They were never going to failure so that they did not, God forbid, strain themselves. So unfortunately, the real world and real football and athletics requires you to go beyond. So if you're doing 80% of your workout, you're not going to get as strong as possible. And then under Riley, there was, I don't know, it was weird with him. And and part of the thing is I checked out, like with Riley, I was like midway through his time, I was watching WKRP in my basement and playing Super Mario Brothers. Like I just didn't care because it was just a crappy product. And I was invigorated for 5 minutes with the next hire, like a lot of people were, but we saw how that went. So
okay, we're going to get to that in a second. And Greg also adds, Matt, Chuck, Maddie, Fred really shines on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Central, right here on Coronation's YouTube channel for the 5 Heart Podcast. Guess what? I've already mentioned that now twice, Greg. You're welcome. Okay,
Shameless
so
plug.
it's, he makes fun of me, but come on. Let's see.
We're all one big family. Let's not fight now.
We are. Diamond Dave says Frazier was great even as a freshman. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. So you were also a fan during the time that Scott Frost was quarterback. And we got him back from Stanford, right? Did you hear me?
Yeah, you froze for a second. You're talking Frost, and now we went to Stanford, right?
Yes.
Or no?
I heard he went to Stanford because he wasn't guaranteed a starting position as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things with him that, I don't know, I'll get it out of the way because it's like my brand, as they say, making fun of that guy. He and I we're contemporaries. He was the it athlete in the state. Yeah. Couldn't see news without hearing about him. And he went to Stanford. I didn't really care. He came back, he earned his stripes, won us a championship. Yeah, again, my friends and I were at Miracle, Missouri. Matt Sander was there too. And it's like, in my mind, in a lot of people's mind, he was the guy to do it because he was the last link to the good old days. He had pedigree, played for Osborne and Walsh. I believe he played for Bill Parcells, Tony Dungy, and I forget somebody else. And then he coached with Snyder at K-State. So in my mind, and a lot of people's minds, he was the guy. Like he had it going all the time in Oregon. And then, the whispers came louder and we were going to get him. And couldn't wait. And I never forget, I was watching that UCF championship game and it was scrolling across the bottom line that he's going to be named head coach. And my mom called me, and my mom was like one of the biggest Husker fans. And she said, "Oh, honey, he's coming home. I'm so happy. I know how much this means to you." And, it meant a lot to a lot of people. Maybe we didn't get what we wanted, but we got what we deserved. And the jokes and the making fun of him is just to laugh it off, to keep from screaming sometimes. So it's like, I don't hate the guy. I don't wish him ill will, but I think he had his issues. Sucks for him. It let us all down. And I've made peace with it, but I'll still make fun of it. I can't hear you, Minnie.
Sorry, I was sneezing. Thank you. Okay. So
I gotcha. You're back.
Yeah, thank you. I had my mic muted. What I was going to say is Frost has been giving some interviews with as head coach now at Central Florida, and it seems like he's matured quite a bit, as well as his interviews are tolerable. I felt like during the time that he was here, it was just cringeworthy watching his interviews, especially because I became a fan during the Mike Riley era when he was like, "Yes, we lost, but have a wonderful day, everybody." I just got tired of hearing Scott Frost say, "Yeah, we got to work on that. Nobody wants to win more than I do." And, just things like that. It's just so
Yep. Seen this
frustrating. You could
movie
feel
before,
frustration.
thought we were ready to
Yeah,
play. I'd kill to be out there. It was just painful.
it was painful to watch. But like I said, he sounds like he's matured quite a bit. And, I don't know if it ever really works out for those players that come back and were known as like the golden boy um, to coach, especially a place like Nebraska. I mean, I
Yeah.
should just add that caveat right there because there's already these high expectations.
Yeah. I mean, he's sounded better now at Central Florida, but he did kind of take a pot shot at us where he said something about how it was nice to be part of a program where he and the athletic director were on the same page and they had the same vision or something. And it was like, no, okay, sorry, bud, but you weren't exactly Captain America near the end of your time here. So, don't go like referencing us even in that manner. But in an effort to prop up his own situation, it's like, okay, just shut up, do what you got to do out there. Maybe you can have a redemption arc and you can go somewhere bigger someday, but just don't poke the bear.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I have to give a shout out to Polyjam because they have a fantastic channel that puts out the best music for Husker fans. And I love everything they do. So, but they say Nebraska was the best 3-9 team in the history of college football under Scott Frost. Don't disagree with that. How about you? Oh,
I mean, that 3-9, it's like, okay, I don't know. Even if they would have flipped each result or half of those, I think he was on a path of just descent that it was going to happen anyway. And
yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I think we're in a much better place now. We have a person that's a professional and a grown adult running it. Say that with a lot of caution, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I will be like chat will have my hide if I don't ask you about Trev. So what is it
Oh,
with Trev that he's your favorite person? Really? Trev Alberts?
no.
Tell me.
Well, you've talked to Todd many times,
Mhm.
Todd Wolverton, right? And he
Yes.
was a wrestler. And yeah, well, what Trev did to the UNO wrestling program, basically firing the head coach and ending the program via phone call after they've won like their 8th national championship. And he's just like, yeah, congrats. And by the way, your program's discontinued. It's all over.
Oh.
And then that was it. And then lying about like why he did it. Oh, the revenue and this and that. But it was like UNO wrestling operated off the same budget they were given. So literally the same dollar amount budget from like 1985 up until he discontinued the program, I think in 2010. They were 90 some odd percent self-funding. So it wasn't that
Oh,
they weren't
wow.
making money. And then it was like, well, they need to be in a different conference because we're moving to a conference, but they could wrestle other teams in a separate conference and still be fine. So it was kind of like basically, in my opinion, Trev Alberts thought that Mike Denny, the wrestling coach, was like UNO's Tom Osborne, and he didn't want to potentially compete with him or have somebody
Oh.
against him in the athletic director spot. When they first, he told Coach Denny, who had 8 national championships, oh, I thought your wrestling program was a club program. So, yeah, he disrespected him
Wow.
a lot. I don't know if a wrestler shoved him in a locker when he was in high school or something, and it hurt his little feelings, but yeah, he's a coward. I've said it many times in the chat. Yeah, I got nothing good to say about him. Wasn't thrilled when he got hired as AD. He did some okay stuff, but he's always about the next big thing. He's going to push to be the next college football, like their Roger Goodell. That's my prediction for him. It's probably what he's going to do. I hope he gets it. Hope he fails. Like, I have no love lost for the guy.
Wow. Okay.
There you go. So they asked, I told you. You're welcome, Matt.
That's fine. Again, I don't have the history that you do. And I think that, Trev Alberts left, at least from my perspective as a newer fan, he left the football program in a way better position than when he found it. So that's,
Agreed. He did. But that's also self-preservation, because if that program is looking like shit, he's looking like shit, and people want him gone. So, and to be fair, he didn't have to make a real tough decision there. I mean, it wasn't like Frost was coming out of a 9-3 season, and it was a little bit shaky, but we weren't sure it was going to happen. Like with Solich at the end, and then all the other stuff that quote unquote allegedly happened behind the scenes. It's not like he had to really agonize over that for too long, but he did make a good decision with what we got. I don't know if Rule was the first choice or not, but I'm cautiously optimistic and happy with the choice, because again, he's a professional and a grown adult. We ain't had that in a while.
Okay. Well, Blaine Cole tends to agree with you, and he says Nebraska athletics were better the day Trev left. I don't know. I guess it depends on which lens you're looking through for the Trev Alberts thing. But he did hire our current coach, Matt Rule. And for that, I mean, like you said, a grown-up, somebody with experience as a head coach, a ton of experience in the NFL, and it feels like he's the one that actually could turn the ship around and maybe make fans from, new fans, old fans, everybody alike happy, which is kind of weird.
It's strange, because even as bad as it got at the end with Frost, I figured there'd still be some people that were like, we got to keep him. I think there were some boosters that were in that, but I think maybe people were just so tired of the just ridiculousness that if Rule just showed a pulse, for God's sake, they were going to be happy. And he did. So, I like the fact that he has a plan for everything, and he's not willing to go down with the ship if he has some coach or friend who sucks. Granted, I think he should have got rid of Satterfield completely, but whatever. He made the change to Holgerson. That's huge in real time. Second year in, that's amazing.
It's interesting too, because Rule keeps setting all these different precedents in college football. Thinking outside the box, like, why not? The rules change. You can have as many coaches as you want now. Analysts, coaches. Why not hire a brand new offensive coordinator with only 3 games left? That's unheard of. And to coach D-line in the bowl game, again, unheard of. And then to cancel the spring game, again, unheard of. I just see all these things where he's definitely thinking outside the box, doing what's best for the program, and utilizing the way that the rules change to our advantage. And I think it's really wonderful. And I hope that we get to see a true winning season in 2025.
I think we're going to be okay. I mean, I think still, if we only win 8, that's like the bare minimum. Got to be better. I don't care. But yeah, he's light years ahead. And I mean, and the thing too, really think about was the fact that the game that he left when he left Baylor and the game that he came back to when he came back here is quite a different game with all the stuff you just said with the nil and with the portal and with the all the stuff. It's complete. So he's had to completely readjust. And I mean, to be quite frank, that's a thing that the last few regimes we've had, they would not make changes to staff. They wouldn't change, you know. You look at other schools like Iowa that still pretends that nil doesn't exist. I mean, I'm not a fan of nil, but got to have it, you know, and we're diving headlong into it. And he's managing it the right way. Wasn't a fan of the spring game going away, but we're a bit of a trendsetter because he realized we're going to get our guys pillaged, you know, like, so why provide a whole day's worth of film on our guys just so they get poached? I mean, so yeah, he's all over it.
That doesn't make any sense. Okay, Aaron Keene. He says, Minnie having any criticism of rule also unheard of. I know, but you see what I have, the reason why. I mean, I go from Mike Riley to Scott Frost to, I mean, Mickey Joseph for a brief instant. And then we have Matt Rule. Of course, I'm so excited, like beyond excited. So I don't know. I've never coached football. Not that he gets to even coach football because of the way that the roles have changed. He basically has become a CEO. So yeah, I think
they always talk about
it's really
CEO
exciting.
coach, but now it's like a real thing. You know?
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Would you mind finishing the show with your story of how you became a Husker fan? Because I know that you have some roots that, you know, family members were fans and stuff, but I wanted to also make sure we talked about wrestling because as Vince Watson points out, Tyson Terry this past weekend is a 4-time national conference title winner.
Oh, first time heavyweight, 4 years heavyweight state champ. Yes. Yeah, first time ever in Nebraska.
Right. But he was 169-0. Go ahead.
His last loss was in 8th grade to somebody in like Pennsylvania, and some must have been like, I don't know, some kind of tournament out there. So it's like I've watched a little bit of him, and I just saw a quick interview before his semifinal match, which was like tough. He barely won, but he said he likes to attack and take people's souls. And I really like that because we don't have enough of that in today's football. We need people taking other people's souls. Just the ability, the desire to win and crush people. And then he did pin his opponent in the finals. So it's like, if we could translate that to all the other players, he's a D lineman, you know, if he's disruptive, I can't wait to see what he can do out there.
Yeah, me either. But I read that he played with a torn ACL in the last couple matches.
And he wrestled the whole season with it too. So it's like, that's freaking tough. But we're probably going to lose him now for, you know, it'd be a while before he's able to do anything before he's healed up. But I just hope that my fear, you know, on jinx anything, knock on wood, but it's like, let's just not have it be a Prohaska or a Fedone where it's like always something. So give him all the time and grace that it takes to heal and get it together and bring him out when it's right. You know, don't rush him and then he tears something else, then we're screwed, you know, and his career's shot.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that for any of our guys. Nope. Well, Husker wrestling ended up finishing the regular season as ranked number 4. They won at Purdue 35-6. So now we move on to the Big Ten championships. Tell me a little bit
I think
about Mark
that's
Manning.
March
What do you think about
8th, I believe it starts.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait, first, I'm
I
gonna
think
do
they're in pretty
something.
good shape. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, because somebody just hopped on the stream. So, surprise,
Oh.
it's Greg.
Fred.
Welcome, Greg.
I wish my internet was good so our faces could be side by side. Maybe another time.
Speaking of my 5 hearts, brother, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing good. Had a pretty good day today. Good weather.
Good.
So,
for those who don't know, Fred and I, we communicate via email about every week, kind of, keeping up in one another's lives. I'm blessed to call Fred a friend. And so I couldn't let the opportunity pass by with you being live. I'd say in living color, but not. But but with you being on the show without popping in and saying welcome, saying thank you for your contributions. When I think of the Holger Maniacs, brother,
Oh boy.
yes. there are a handful of names that jump to the front of my brain. So thank you for enhancing the Thursday night show and Monday nights when you're in the comments, and just thanks for being the awesome guy that you are, man.
well, you're welcome.
You didn't expect to be that nice, did you?
No, I was waiting. It was like, I've been waiting a long time. So I thought you're going to come on and just like tell me to go to hell or suck it or something like that. Do the old DX. But yeah, no, I appreciate it.
No, well, I've been able to watch or listen to quite a bit of the show after I got the twins to bed. Garrett, my oldest, was helping me fold laundry, so I had you in one ear while I was saying, all right, go put that in your drawer, go put that in that, go hang up that, so it's just fun hearing stories. I think sometimes we forget to just share stories, like sometimes we get too analytical on what's going on in today's, Husker sports scene. So it's just good to hear stories, hear about how people became fans and some memories. I know you shared with me via email your trip, and I know you said that some of them are here in the comments tonight, but that trip down to Columbia for the game almost 30 years ago. Sorry to do that to you.
Oh, wow.
and
Ouch.
those are great. That's a great story, and I know that it's just one chapter in the book of Fred's Husker fandom stories. So, I just wanted to jump in and thank you for being you, and to Matt and Chuck and Maddie and all your friends out there, Maureen, who get to put up with you on a regular basis. I know that you enrich their lives as well.
I'm gonna just excuse myself for 1 second.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Now we can talk shit about her while she's gone. Get out your list of grievances, Greg. Do it.
No, Festivus is past. We're 2 months and a day past Festivus. So, what have I missed in the show that I didn't hear earlier?
I don't know. I just talked quite a bit, actually. I don't think you missed anything awesome. Like, I talked about how I became a fan. I talked about my thoughts on like us losing the Tennessee game, losing it as in getting rid of it.
Right.
Basic stuff like that. We touched on a little bit of Husker wrestling. A lot of random stuff in chat. You've seen a few of my friends, like you said, Jerry Morrow, Chuck, Matt, etc.
I was, just thinking because you were talking about the Tyson Terry, right? It's not Tyler Terry. It's Tyson Terry.
Tyson, yeah, Tyson.
Yeah, okay. Just talk about him and how he has that pedigree that reminds probably a lot of people of Nash Hutmacher. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, to go undefeated, not just through your senior year, but your entire high school career. I know you mentioned his last match that he lost was in 8th grade to a kid in Pennsylvania or something like that. But to do it, particularly as a senior, when everybody's trying to be the guy that bumps you off, and also you have a torn ACL, it's unfortunate. We're not going to see him for a year. I know you said, let's make sure everything's healed up properly. See, I do pay attention. But so it's but he's a guy that we need. Not to say we don't need him next year. We need him 2026, 2027, 28, those years. So let's get him built back healthy
and whole. Yes.
Right. I want to throw up this comment here from Never Mind Me. Says the Tennessee game gives us a bad look. I remember, I believe it was Troy Dannon, of course, our athletic director on X. The reason behind it is not, it's financial. It's purely monetary. They're giving up the home and home in favor of having 2 home games because they're trying to fund a stadium renovation and, trying to not put that burden on the taxpayers. I'd imagine you live in the state. You probably read more about that stuff, obviously, than I do. But from financial aspect, it makes sense. You don't ever want to give up that's a top tier home and home as far as non-conference goes. It's Tennessee. Tennessee has a historic rivalry. You can have the ability to go back to, 97, things like that. And Nebraska and Tennessee mixing up. It's an SEC team. I don't like giving up the Tennessee game, but I understand it as a business decision. You know what I mean, Fred?
Yeah, well, and also we quote unquote gave it up, but also people forget we accommodated Tennessee like over a decade ago, and we pushed this back because of their request. I don't remember what they had going on. I can't remember. It's like 10, 12 years ago. We moved it to when we did to accommodate them. And then now we asked them to accommodate us because of the renovation, and they're like, no. So, granted, maybe we needed to be more diligent and be quicker on the draw and tell them that, because granted, they got to go find opponents now too. But it's like the way it's been reported, it just makes us look like we ran away. And that sucks because that's not quite it. We did them a favor a decade ago. We asked them to do the same. They said no. So it's like, okay, it just doesn't work. So we have to do what we did, but it's, and I said, that's the visceral thing. We all see the headline. We're like, this sucked. We're angry. We look weak, but there's more to it, Hope she's back. Quit talking shit, Greg.
No.
Yeah.
Me?
Okay. I did not realize that. Are you serious? We did them a favor a decade ago, and now they aren't reciprocating?
We did. It was like 20. I forget. I listened to something. I had a lot of information in and out, but yeah, we'd accommodated them because I don't know what was going on and pushed it to when it was supposed to happen. So yeah, so it's not all on us.
Interesting. Yes. This is another issue where, again, we get caught up with things that our emotions overcome us in Husker football.
What do we have to dodge cars during that, or what would happen?
I don't know. James Boardman says that Tennessee wanted to play the game at Bristol Motor Speedway. I know it's one of the. I'm not a big motor sport racing whatever advocate, but I feel like Bristol is one of the smaller tracks. But still, that would be. I don't know, that logistically, that I feel like that would not be great because you could be very far from the action if you're watching it at a motor speedway. I know in times past, Fred, you may remember, I think Tennessee and Virginia Tech played at Bristol because it's very much near the border. But I don't remember any of that specifically.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, but just the layout. Yeah, you'd have some really shitty seats. And I mean, people would pay. There's Nebraska fans that would pay to be on the surface of the fucking moon, and still watch the game. I mean, that's just how it is sometimes. But yeah, that's silly. I wouldn't want us to do that.
Never mind me says we can afford to lose a home game financially. I love y'all, but we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. Again, it's not that it's purely because they don't want to give up the gate, the revenue from the gate, the revenue from concessions, etc., because it's going towards the funding of the renovations at Memorial Stadium. So I don't even know what Nebraska takes in on an average home game. Minnie, you look like you're going to greggle it.
I don't know, but I can tell you that the concessions, having beer and alcohol, is a huge moneymaker. And they're going to start that. Is it this next season or the season after? Either way, it would be the Tennessee game.
Well, it's not going to be the Tennessee game.
Well, if we had it, because that was the 2026 year. So I know that.
I think somebody had done projections of like the buyout or whatever versus of us getting out versus what we gain from those two games. I don't know who we're playing. Is it Ohio and Northern Iowa or something? They said overall we'll recover the money from the buyout and make money. So again, it's all revenue, and they got to do what they got to do. From a fan perspective, though, it's like, yeah,
doesn't move the needle of anticipation quite as much as Nebraska, Tennessee. So
I don't like it because I don't like when I just talked with my brother yesterday up in Wyoming, and the first question he asked me about Nebraska football is, why did Nebraska back out of the Tennessee game?
What'd you say? Did you say we're afraid?
Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, "Are you guys afraid?" And I said, I don't know exactly why we did, but I'll check into that. I didn't really have an answer because I didn't know.
Did you tell him to watch the show Monday night and you'll have an answer?
I did, actually. I did, but
tell him we're afraid that Josh Heupel's getting into like Brett Bielema territory and he's going to like crush babies and small children. He's like a giant fat ass now too.
Yeah. Chuck says for the national perspective is, the outside looking is that Nebraska's scared. That's what a decision like that does for a minor financial gain. So, yeah.
Well, who cares? I don't really care what they think.
With the numbers, the average home game is about $7 million for the university, another $4 million for the city. So
that's a lot of money.
That's revenue. It's tough to turn down when you're contemplating, raising ticket prices and all these other things to fund these stadium renovations. So, I wasn't planning on going to Nebraska, Tennessee, either in Lincoln or Knoxville. This is a, I don't know. It's a non-story for me.
Oh, Jerry, Greg, I know you're used to this. Back off the clicking.
Oh, sorry. I was actually trying to click off of the one that I had. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Jerry's the bearer of bad news. Damn you, Jerry.
Yeah.
You made Minnie sad.
One.
We'll talk about it next time we go out for beers.
That's okay. I am sad about that because they're at home. They needed to win this.
49-46. That's
a
big
Ten because I have zero expectations for Nebraska basketball. It's like, okay, it's a thing that happens.
Well, yeah, but I mean, last year, look at how far we went. Although the girls went further.
I bet they did.
Yeah. Stop. Jeez.
It's what you get.
I know. Okay, Fred, I want to ask you what was it like becoming a fan of Nebraska football? How old were you? How did that happen? Give me the details.
Well, like I said, my first vivid memory was the 84 Orange Bowl. So I would have been not quite 11. Or I don't know. I can't do math. 8. And just to see the passion of the people, and again, the grown men crying and simultaneously hanging over railing, vomiting because they drank so much. I guess there's something about that just pulled me to it. But no, it's like, it was like a storybook thing, though. You remember everything. I remember things like mostly in the winter and the fall. There's just more of a homey feel to it. And I remember, cold gray days in Nebraska and Oklahoma, and chili and runzas and burgers and steaks. And, the 91 game where it was played in an ice storm. And I think it was Brent Musburger. He's like, it's Nebraska. It's 20 degrees. It's an ice storm. What better thing to do but play a football game, and it's like, that's the thing that pulled me in. It's tough. It's visceral. It's not soft football like Jerry Donardo was talking about when Riley was coach, like, oh, it's a Pac-12 practice. No, it was cold and there's blood and people get beat up, and and it's the Midwestern thing. We work hard and we don't expect a lot. We just expect our fair share for working hard. And to me, that's what that football team always was. We'd play, warm weather teams and freaking saunas for the bowl game. Nobody ever came here and played in the cold, but we that was our lot in life. I grew up in the country. I baled hay. I worked with farmers. It's a certain work ethic. And to me, that's what Husker football always was. And it seems to have lost it off and on over the years and different regenerations of the program. But just finally, the visceral explosion of when we finally did win. We beat Miami. My friends, we drove around town. It was like negative degrees out. And then we drove to our high school practice field. We were going to tear down the goalposts, but there was only like 4 of us and we couldn't do it. It's like, that was what it was about. It was a community, like the show, it was a community. It was a family. We were in it together. It was us against everybody else, before even dealing with Iowa, but it was us against the South. It was us against Florida, Miami. It was an insular thing, and people make fun of us. It's all you got. Well, you got damn right. It's all we got. We got volleyball and we got some other things. And, I got 13 breweries in 12 minutes time from my house. And we got a lot of good food around here, but still there's something about Nebraska football and just kicking people's ass, making them like it, not chirping about it. We weren't Miami. We beat business trip. And that's where they've lost me some years when we've done our grandstanding or, well, we're going to wear black uniforms. If you have to wear black to show that you're tough, you're not tough. Wear your uniform, the same one you always wear. You go out and play, kick their ass, shake their hand, and make them go away. You're like, that's football. That's Nebraska football. It's not putting on airs. It's not some crazy style of ball. And it's all what we do sometimes is what all the other teams did to psych themselves up to think they had a chance. And it's like, no, we just need to get back to being tough, shut up, play the game, kick ass, go home. It's very simple.
Do you think that we are on our way to that? I mean, especially adding somebody like Tyson Terry to the roster. I mean, that guy seems like he is built for Nebraska football.
Sure does. And I'm biased because I wrestled. I wasn't a good wrestler. By the way, get that out of the way. It's not like I have some kind of All-American or All-Conference, but wrestlers are great on the line and footwork, hand placement, center of gravity, offense and defensive line. They're built for it. So to have a guy that knows how to use leverage like that and let us coach him up on the line, I mean, that is phenomenal. I'd be happy if all of our D linemen were wrestlers because they would just kick ass.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I love this comment from Jerry Morrow. He says, Osborne was never into stunts to psych out a team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about those stunt plays, those trick plays that we play every once in a while?
That's one thing.
Not the
Trick plays are
Northwestern one.
That's That makes, yeah. Well, that's onside kicks don't count, but like trick plays. I mean, Osborne would run the fumble rooski. Solich had the stunts past to Crouch. I mean, that's one thing, but Jerry's more meaning like stunts. Like, what was it? Was it Neuheisel had the Samoan band come through the Colorado crowd beating a drum, before we just kicked the shit out of them one year? Like, he did stuff like that. Or even Callahan, we beat Colorado the one year and he had the buffalo head that he pulled out of a bag or something. It's like, Tom Osborne didn't do that. He didn't believe in that. He believed in being the better prepared team, by God, crazy concept. Just go out, execute your assignments and win, So yeah, that's what Jerry meant by stunts, not trick plays or trickeration, but just straight up gimmicky BS to fire up your team. If you're not ready by the time you get there, you're done,
Awesome. Greg, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask Fred? Sorry. I cut you off last time, so.
That's right. You mentioned, Fred, the multitude of breweries near your home. What's your favorite beer when you get there?
I would go with, I'm biased again because it's close by. I like Kincaidor. I can walk there in 15 minutes and I can make it home in about 25 walking, but I like it. And they have a beer. I was drinking the Goat, the Bach Lager, which is good. I like Snow Beast, and I said I really missed a opportunity to get some kind of nil deal for Nash there, because that would be cool, because it's really like this big white Sasquatch looking thing, and it's their Christmassy beer. But they have another winter beer called Krampus, and it's really good. It's a dark beer. It's like 8%. Not to be confused with Krampus, like PJ Fleck gets once a month, but just like it's the Krampus god or whatever that is about Christmas. But that's a good one too. But yeah, out of all of them, I like Kincaidor. I like them all. Some have certain beers that they hang their hat on and are better than others. There's a place called Lumen that's like, if you like IPAs, that's your place. But Matt, Fred loves Monaco's. You and me, Matt, we're the only two that drink that. So yeah.
Is that like? Oh. Go ahead, Minnie.
I was just asking, is it from Nebraska? Monaco's.
Monaco, no, it's a malt beverage that they took off the market after all those hillbillies went blind. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. I poured it on some grass and it died one time, but I'll drink it on the rare occasion when I'm feeling sad.
Is it the Omaha version of Malort?
It's kind of like Fudd Dry, actually. Yeah.
Let's see. Here's one. Jerry says, have Fred on next week.
We will. He's welcome to come. Fred, you are welcome to come on anytime.
Careful, Fred. That's what I said to this one.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
About 14 months ago, and look what that got.
Yes.
Organized.
I don't like it when mom and dad fight.
She knows I'm kidding.
True. Yeah, it's the reason that I was happy that Greg jumped on is because I'm feeling kind of stuffed up, and I don't normally get sick, but I keep sneezing and my nose is runny, so I'm not feeling quite 100%. But you guys are talking about these like hillbilly type alcohols that people drank and supposedly like went blind and things like that, when it's not allergies. I think I have a cold, a little cold. When I was growing up though, did you guys ever have a grandmother who would brew her own homemade medicine?
No.
No?
I didn't have any witches in my family.
They're not. No, they're not witches. My
Ventilated them on
grandmother.
your feet, and that was about it for us. So
When I was little, my grandmother used to have in like one of those big ball jars whiskey, honey, onion, and I want to
big
say
balls of what?
clove. The ball jars, you know what I mean? Clove, and there was something else in there. And it would ferment, and she'd give you a teaspoon of it, and it would knock you out. That's what I feel
Sounds
like
like
I
it.
need. That's what I need right
They
now.
didn't call DCFS on her? Kaylee's like, I think that's a mixed drink at the bar.
It sounds like it. So I have quite a few starred comments, Greg. Can you go ahead and take those?
I will.
Thank you.
8:05 p.m. James Borman says maybe Fred could hotwire the stream like a 76 Ford Pinto. What happened at the beginning of the show? Was that just the Fred not getting his, lagging?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what it was.
All right. Roger Moore says Dateline is investigating the Target issue.
There must have been something that happened at Target with Mr. Sacco.
I'm not going to ask. It's none of my business. My name's Paul. This is between y'all. What was a wild night in Gretna, Fred?
That's totally fabricated, and
Okay.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Fair enough.
And it was Louisville instead of Gretna. So
it was totally made up, but at least because of the location was wrong. 810 Josh Hansen on Facebook says this seems dangerous, meaning Fred live with that.
Oh, there's Josh. God.
Today is his little girl's birthday, so he gets a pass.
Happy birthday.
So, let's see. At 8:10, Coach Frost was on line 3, wanted to speak to Fred.
Hey, it's all right. He never wrestled. I think I'd still take him, even though I'm fat and out of shape.
Hey, round is a shape. Sorry. OU shredded us with the option. I think that's probably talking about the Scott Frost offensive coordinator years, I'm guessing. Joseph Doherty said Husker Wrestling finished the year great, top 10 team all year.
They were great.
So we appreciate
all
that.
Year.
We will, again, try to have Dylan on to talk wrestling with us at some point.
Yeah, we will.
He's a worthwhile resource. Joseph Doherty's first game was Washington versus Nebraska in Lincoln in 1991-ish. So, again, I'm just reading. I don't know how many of these have been addressed, so I apologize if we're rehashing.
They have not. Thank you.
You're welcome. Matt Sainer, the good old days where they actually give you real tickets. Do we have a real ticket to show for that?
Oh, yes, we do. Look at all of Fred's collection.
Those are some good tickets. Is that a Big 12 championship ticket in there?
Yeah.
In the Alamo Dome?
Yes.
Did you go to San Antonio?
Yep. San Antonio.
Yeah, well, I know. Did you zip line in like Shawn Michaels?
Oh, my God.
No.
There's a better.
Right.
Trap it.
That was the same venue. Look at $20 for the Big 12 championship.
$20.
$20 for that. A couple of years later, I'm paying $50 to go see the, Maine. Like, come on now.
Right. I remember that Maine game. I mean, I wasn't there, but I remember. I think that was 03.
No, it was Callahan. It was like 05 or something. It was terrible. Like it was bad. It sucked. It was like a season opener of the second game or something.
05.
Greg, I'm probably wrong, but yeah.
September 3rd, 2005, Nebraska beats Maine 25-7.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think Rude had like an interception return for a touchdown or something to make it that score. Like they just slopped around all day. It was brutal. I think it was like one of those pay-per-view.
Yeah.
few games.
It was in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Nebraska was leading Maine 15-7 going into the fourth quarter.
Wow.
All right. Let's see here. Josh says, I was at the Texas home loss. I'm guessing that's 2010. If we're talking about like heartbreaking losses or games.
Well, I was talking 98 when we lost
Okay.
the 47-game home winning streak,
Right.
which was just the shits.
The drizzling ones at that. Minnie, I hope you're looking at the live comments as I'm hitting the starred comments. Let me know if there's anything that you need to jump in and address. We were talking. I know you were talking earlier. I was listening while folding laundry. Talking about the HCSF coaching tree. James Borman says Bill Walsh, the head coach of Stanford, and Frost fancied himself as a pro quarterback. So that's why he went to Stanford instead of committing to Nebraska from the outset. I know that.
Okay, so I read this. Not that everything you read is truth, but I read that the reason he went to Stanford is because he wasn't guaranteed to start as a quarterback, and he just desperate. They actually wanted to play him in a different position, and he wanted to play quarterback. Is that wrong?
They might
I
be
honestly don't
revisionist
remember
history. I
that.
don't know.
Could have been a thing. I think he honestly thought that he was a pro-style quarterback, and going there would have gotten him the better opportunity playing for Walsh. Pro-style, obviously, all the quarterbacks Walsh had coached and whatnot. But if you look up his old footage when he played quarterback at Stanford, he threw the ball the same way he threw it when he played here. So they couldn't fix the shot put throw.
Really?
Like, come on now.
All right. Max says every running back since Pelini's Division II at best, total dog crap.
I like that comment because, we have now on the roster Emmett Johnson, who seemed to have broken out of that mold once we had Dana Holgerson as the offensive coordinator. And he was able to get a whole heck of a lot more yardage just in those 3 games when he was playing. And I thought maybe he is going to be a great running back. What do you guys think?
Fred, I'm going to let you go first.
We talking for Johnson?
Yeah, Emmett Johnson.
I mean, I think so. I like a lot of people like John was kind of disappointed when he jumped in the portal for 45 minutes and then decided to come back. Like, he had a hell of a year considering what he had around him. Not a great O-line, not great play calling, and occasional shoddy play at quarterback. So, there were different things that Johnson had going against him, and he still came out and had some really good season. So I don't know that he's going to be the next great thing, but I think the way Holgerson's scheme works, he'll showcase him the best way he can, and he'll have a good season, barring injury.
Let's see. Husker Chuck says we haven't had a great running back since Abdullah. I would say I'm on green before that. I'm pulling up some stats here just for fun. I mean, we had – I'm trying to think of a timeline. I guess Amir was after Burkhead, if memory serves me correctly. Although it's
yes,
you get back so far.
Yep.
Was Burkhead elite? Great, no, but he was definitely more than serviceable. He was a 1,300-yard rusher his junior year. Divino Zigbo was a 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, it's so subjective, great, good, Vince using the term
Burkhead could have been better if we had an offensive coordinator who had a brain. Like, we had a weird offense even back then that made no sense. And they'd run him, I think he was really good, and he played in the NFL for a long. So I wouldn't consider him dog shit. I'd say he was pretty close to elite. And really a guy I think a lot of people forget about was Ozigbo. He looked like a legit, he looked like an Oregon running back, like whatever his last season here was. He looked really good. And other than that, though, it's been rough.
We've had it, and I don't want to say not wasted, but we've had guys who we certainly thought had a lot of ability, but then just either couldn't break free, couldn't stay healthy. One that and maybe he's because he's from St. Louis, was like Trey Bryant. Trey Bryant always seemed to me that he might be a really solid running back. He just couldn't stay healthy. When he couldn't break in into the top 2, I guess. So I don't know. Emmett Johnson, let's hope for the best, and then we get some more depth at that position, because we need more horses in the stable. So
Yeah.
Marion Parker, Gargamel says hopefully, and again another St. Louis guy, Jamarion Parker, the next home run hitter, running back. So that was the right one. Anyway, sorry. Husker Chuck says nobody close to a Rozier or LP. You're not wrong.
That's pretty rarefied air, though.
Right, right. You got a Heisman winner and an absolute beast. So, if we could find one of those every year, we'd be looking at 9-10 plus wins for a season. But it's also
we will. It's just a matter of getting. I mean, we're on our way right now. We're getting such great recruits.
I also think that the game has shifted in that running back's not the priority that used to be.
It's true.
So it's tough to find those players because it's football from the top down, from the NFL down. It's becoming a passing sport. So.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. Got that one. Chuck says, Fred and I went to the Northwestern game in 23. We yelled many car wash related things at them. We weren't far from their bench. And they let you stay, Fred.
This is true. And we even were yelling, like, we know you can hear us and don't ignore us. And they did. I mean, we were talking purge masks and yelling car wash and everything. And
my God.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was hoping to get at least like somebody flip me off or something. I'd say get the finger from Northwestern, but that's, loaded question, loaded comment, and I don't want to go through the car wash, so I'll leave it there.
Polly Jam says, first in-person game for me was Minnesota in Lincoln, 1990. I was 12. Huskers won something like 55-0. Mickey Joseph was the starting quarterback. I still have the program from that game. Tickets were so cheap. And we have a follow-up. Husker Chuck responds to Polyjam and says, Polyjam was 56-3. I remember because it was my wedding day. I told my fiance the wedding was off if we lost.
Bad juju. I get that.
Yeah, I guess you don't want rain on your wedding and you don't want a Husker loss. So honestly, the easiest way to avoid that is don't get married in the fall.
Yeah.
For all of you young lovers out there, avoid fall weddings. Don't go to them. Don't make yours in the fall.
Don't go to them. Send a memo out send a memo out in July and just let people know I will not be in your life unless you want to attend a Husker game with me or watch a Husker game with me during these dates. It's that easy.
It's ridiculous when people do it. I had to be in a wedding on the 2000 Oklahoma game. And they had a TV as we were waiting to go into the church, and it had terrible reception. And then we had an old man who was listening on a radio and was giving us play-by-play. That's how we watched that Oregon game. And I wanted to murder my friend. So, yeah.
Let's see. Husker Chuck says, would the stream continue if Minnie faceplanted? Minnie, were you about to faceplant?
Yeah. I'm feeling a little woozy, but I'm okay. And yes, it would continue because we have Greg here. And it might continue into 3 hours. You never know.
Wow. This is going a little long for a Monday night show. I just want,
It is. It is.
Gargamel wants to know, Fred, your take on Frost's new gig.
I'm happy for him, and that's where he belongs. So there you go.
Orlando. There are worse places to be, I suppose. Husker Chuck went to the first Big 12 championship game in St. Louis.
That's awesome.
I don't think of St. Louis as like Big 12 country. I mean, I know obviously Missouri was here, but it seems like it's on the fringe. That's why I imagine, and Minnie, Fred, agree, disagree, that there will probably come a time when a Big 10 championship is going to be played at the Rose Bowl, but I still think it needs to be in the heart of Big 10 country. I really like it just staying in Indianapolis.
It's so hard to think that is the heart of it now.
Geographically speaking.
Yeah,
it'll land there eventually. They'll do it. Yeah,
Say
they'll
that again?
do it. It'll happen.
Yeah. Or SoFi Stadium, I guess. Maybe to take it away from like a home field,
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see. Husker Chuck also says Lawrence Phillips, best Husker running back. Probably agree. Rozier was very close. Best running back I've seen was Barry Sanders. I don't think you're going to find too many people who argue with that. Fred, any arguments as far as best? I mean, Barry Sanders for decades held the record for most running yards in a collegiate career. It was eventually broken by Danny Woodhead, of all people. It's been broken since.
Who knew?
But thoughts on
to me, I'd say Barry, and we could talk about best running backs here, there, everywhere. I mean, he's one of my favorites. He's one of the best. I mean, I used to be a Bears fan. Walter Payton, to me, was the best running back ever, but that's a whole other discussion. But you talk in our region, our location, other Big 8, Big 12, Barry probably was. I mean, I remember a little bit of Rozier. I remember more of Barry Sanders, so I was a little bit older. But, yeah, that guy was unbelievable.
Let's see. Talk about geography, Big 10 championship. Husker Chuck says closest city to the geographic center would be Kansas City. Agreed. But Tony says Big 10 championship will be in Las Vegas for sure. LA, tough to get around in that town. I guess, when I think of, the SEC, it's been in Atlanta for a long time. Atlanta's, again, it's close. It's not Athens, Georgia. It's might as well be a home game for Georgia, and certainly they've spent enough time there. But it's not again, it makes sense for the region, but when your region of the Big 10 is coast to coast, you can pick your spot. Las Vegas is already a tourist destination. So, I mean, there's a lot of
easy.
No,
I was saying it's easy to get to.
Yeah. But again, the old man in me doesn't want to go that far. If Nebraska ever made it to a Big 10 championship, I'd much prefer the 3-hour drive to Indianapolis than the flight to
a 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, but you talk about putting in Vegas, that goes back to the corporatization of everything.
Right.
There's no real tie to Vegas. We're just there. It's a destination. You got a bunch of people there that may get tickets to the game that are corporate sponsored boxes, whatever. And it's like, they don't care. Yeah. And they'll price out the normal people that want to try and go, or if we try and go, it's like, $1,000 a ticket or some nonsense. So it's like, I'd rather it be somewhere more geocentric as well.
And then the last starred comment that I had was from 907. That was from a friend of yours, Fred, and that's Matt. Says, I'm excited for that new Netflix series on Husker football. I hope they represent us right. And I wasn't sure exactly what series he was talking about, so I did a little Gregolin during the show here. And there is a documentary on Amazon Prime Video called Day by Day. And it's actually 2 episodes, I suppose, for lack of a better term, are on there. One is called, I had them here, Day by Day 2023, and this was The Rise. And then in 2024, the producers put out the second episode. It's 2 hours long, called The Dynasty. So it's the Tom Osborne era, starting from the 70s to the 90s, and then the Dynasty that's taking place mostly in the 90s. I didn't know about this. And I don't know if this is
moving
it's to Netflix.
Really good.
Greg, I talked
is.
about it on Thursday night.
When?
It used to be on Apple TV like long ago. My friend and I, Chuck, in the comments, we actually saw it in the theater here, both of them, which was really cool because you were watching these documentaries on the big screen. And yeah, it was pretty. They were a little overdone with the audio. It was a little bit odd. Like one player would tap another one on the ass and you hear this loud smack. And it was like, okay, you don't need to dub that in. But otherwise, they were pretty well done. And maybe they're moving to Netflix or Amazon. But I know at the time it was only on Apple, like after it was in the theater.
All I know,
I mentioned it because Scott Frost is on it, and I thought that he had to come back to Lincoln to give his interview, but somebody said it was during the time that he was a coach.
No, they shot it like during his last season or the season before or something.
Yeah.
I took everything I could not to throw my drink at the screen, but I didn't. So
the Nebraska documentary that I'm most familiar with is Through These Gates, and that is a Ryan Tweedy production. Tweedy, of course, you may remember he had a cup of coffee here with us at Coronation. Had another show on Coronation for a long time called The Big Red Cobcast, and you can check out, I think, on Amazon TV or Amazon whatever for $3.99. You can purchase that, but it is exactly what it sounds like. Tweedy goes home back to after having, I think he still lives out in around LA, but right there on IMDb it says this film follows the director on his journey back home to Lincoln, Nebraska, and all over the country to find out what it means to be a Cornhusker by comparing the culture of the community to that of the hometown football team. So I highly recommend Through These Gates. There are conversations in there with Tom Osborne, Larry the Cable Guy, Tommie Frazier, Jason Peter, and many more. So it's a veritable who's who of conversations. So check out Through These Gates. Free plug for my friend Ryan Tweedy.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, Greg, I think it's time to wrap up.
I'm out of starred comments, so that's fine.
Good. Okay. Do you want to
okay, bye.
No.
It's not my show to end. This is your show.
No, just do it, please.
Okay.
Tell everyone where they can find us again. And Fred, thank you for coming.
Yes, Fred. Thank you for being here. Matt Sainer with
definitely happy to be here.
A less sane take. No offense. I'm sure, Matt, you've probably heard all kinds of.
I see what you did there.
And giving all the credit to the great show to you, Fred, as it should be. So
great show.
This is Monday Night
Show your face.
Monday Night Therapy with Minnie's special guest, Fred Sacco, and me, who was forced to be here, not quite by gunpoint, but was asked and glad I could pop in here again and express my gratitude to you, Fred, and to this wonderful community that we have here at Coronation on YouTube, Facebook, and X. So for the host of this show on Monday Night Therapy, Minnie Hunt, for our very special guest, Fred Sacco, I'm Greg Mahachko, and on Monday night they do things a little different. They just say good night. So, good night, Fred.
Good night, Greg.
Good night, Minnie.
Good night, Greg.
Good
and
night, Minnie.
go Big Red.